the hot section. And we will be just as happy as can be. Well, I love all the mistakes we have this morning because the whole message fits together with my whole message. Actually, they weren't mistakes. I planned it that way. My message. If you believe that, I have a bridge. So I had one of those interesting weeks where I made a few mistakes myself. And you know, it's very hard on the ego when a minister makes a mistake, because when a minister makes a mistake, everybody knows about it. And it's not something you can just say it didn't happen. I decided to change my email address this week. Anybody done that?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I had put it off for so long. People kept telling me, you got to go with a different email server. I know what work it is to change it, so I kept putting it off. But this week I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. Now, you all know how I get dates and times mixed up, right? Like announcing the chanting group when it's already happened, all right? That's me. And so I did it before bedtime when I was really tired. And guess what? This is on my personal email, not the church email. I sent out emails to 75 of my friends with the wrong email address. And I told all my 75 friends to send my emails to this other address. And it wasn't my address, it was the address of a man named Andrew M. Beale. And his email goes A.M. Beale, just like mine. Only mine has a few numbers at the end, and his doesn't. So good old Andrew, who's an Australian from New York City, I discovered, was getting all these emails from all my Facebook friends, or my Yahoo friends. And the next morning I had to get up and start all over again with an apology to Andrew M. Beale, who lives in New York City and is getting all my emails. Anyway, my whole point of this rambling is it's very humbling to be a minister, and it's been such a good path for me to completely let go of my ego and to learn to be okay with the fact that, hey people, I make mistakes. Love me or leave me, but you know, this is who I am. And it keeps me very humble. Very humble. And it's so perfect that it happened this week, because when I was putting my message together, I realized I didn't have any jokes, no stories, nothing funny, but my life is a joke when I have my egoic self, and this was such an ego-freeing experience that it fit perfectly. You know, Paul said, I die daily. And he was talking about his ego, not his physical body. And I'm not sure what he did to free his ego. They didn't have emails back then. Maybe he put all his mail on the wrong camel. And, you know, that could be even worse, because that could take years to fix, putting your mail on the wrong camel. But today's all about freeing the ego. And there are many teachings that say the ego is bad and you have to get rid of it. But it's not so much getting rid of it as freeing it, awakening it from the mindset of fear and separation to the knowing of the union with God and the union with each other that we all share. So what is the ego? Because there's always an argument about, well, I want my ego, I don't want to give it up. What is it? Well, there's so many definitions, it gets a little confusing. But I went to the dictionary, take it or leave it, this is what the dictionary says, that the ego is a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. It's not really who you are, it's your social mask. It's a role you're playing. Hi, I'm Ann Marie, I'm this minister in Green Valley. That's my egoic presence. But spiritually, and this is my own 25-cent version, take it or leave it, I call the ego that part of me that thinks I'm separate from God and from you all. And when you live that way, it's not so much that it's good or bad, but it's a whole different way of living. And that's when you're asleep and you don't know the truth about yourself. Now, some people think the ego means your individuality, and yes, in some sense that's true. But if you get too attached to that definition, you want to keep it. You're afraid to wake up. If I wake up, I'll lose who I am. I'll lose my identity, my sense of self. Well, there's nothing wrong with our individual identities. God decided to be each one of us. We got to honor it. Warts and all, God decided to be me. What he was eating that day, I don't know. But, you know, this is what happened on the day that God had the thought of me and of you. And we have to honor that individuality and all our inner quirks that we each have. But this is about awakening the ego, freeing it, because when your ego wakes up and you realize the truth, oh, we're not separate, I'm you and you are me, you gain more of yourself. You don't lose yourself, you gain your whole self. And the wonderful book study that we're finishing up this Tuesday, the Grace book by Adyashanti, he talks about autonomy. And I think I mentioned it last week because it's my new favorite word. But it's embracing your individuality fully from an awakened state, not from a state of separation. And that's a whole different way to live. So how do you know if you have an ego that needs awakening? Well, you know your ego needs freeing when, and I wish this were a joke, but it's not. Be prepared to be uncomfortable as I go through the list. See if you can find yourself here. You know you have an ego that needs freeing if you want to be in control. And show me someone who's in control, I'll show you someone who's fearful. You know your ego needs freeing if you see life as happening to you. And so you need to protect yourself, to attack and defend. You know your ego needs freeing if you try to control others. Nobody here does that, right? You know, I had to learn that only my ego believes that somebody will change because of me. Did you all have to learn that lesson? Egos tend to blame, judge, complain. Oops. Seek power in the outer world and see the world as them against us. Take things personally. Be easily offended. Thrive on approval. Compare yourself to others. Need to be right. Anybody here need to be right? Self-righteous. Feel the importance of your own opinion. Feel superior to others who are different. Getting uncomfortable? It's getting hot in here. Egos are attention-seeking. They love to tell you their story, whether you want to hear it or not. And I think my favorite line is from Bette Midler. I love Bette Midler. She's one of my favorite people in the world. Remember back when she played the divine Miss M? And she used to say, enough about me, let's talk about you. What do you think of me? That's the perfect ego line, right? Yeah, somebody likes that. That's an amen, baby stuff. Do you remember back in the 90s when the Celestine Prophecy came out? What a wonderful book. It was just a fun book, a great story that had many principles and insights in it. And there's one chapter in that book where they talk about how the egoic self seeks power as a defense, as a vie for power and energy with each other. And there's all different ways, all different strategies that we use to vie for that energy and power with each other. And some of those ways are very overt and some are more passive-aggressive. But the fourth insight in the book was seeing the world as a vast competition for energy and power. And the chapter goes on to say, we humans have been unconsciously competing for the only part of this energy we've been open to, the part that flows between people. That's what human conflict has always been about at every level, from all the petty conflict in families and employment setting to wars between nations. It is the result of feeling insecure and weak and having to steal someone else's energy and power to feel okay. And we do this all unconsciously. We don't even know we're doing it until the ego wakes up to our union. And there's no need to get energy out there. There's no need to fight for power and energy. We have it all where? Within us. We are divine. We have access to all the energy of power. But we tend to live in two worlds. You know, we get together on Sunday and don't we get into oneness here and the love and we don't have to vie for power here. We're all one. And then we go out the door and get into our day-to-day actions with other people who maybe believe differently. Jesus said you cannot serve two masters. You either choose the egoic thought of separation and fear, or the spiritual knowing of our union with God and with each other. Choose this day who you will serve. Eckhart Tolle reminded us that the moment you become aware of the ego in you, it's strictly speaking no longer your ego, but just an old conditioned mind pattern. Just an old conditioned mind pattern. Awareness and the ego cannot coexist. That's serving two masters at the same time. There's a wonderful story of, the woman who channels Abraham, Esther Hicks. And she was doing a channeling one day, how life is consciousness, and we create our own reality. And a man in the audience who had a very negative view of the world became very angry with her. He said, "How dare you say we create our own reality? Look what's going on in the world. Children are abused, people are murdered, politics are corrupt, and there's natural disasters. How dare you say we're creating that?" And he didn't want to hear her explanations. He stayed in that lower vibration of victim consciousness, not realizing that creating his world through that lower vibrational state was adding to all the things that he did not like the most. We create our state of mind, we create our world through the vibrational state of mind that we live in. And the mystical path then is the search for the realization of our union. The Desert Fathers went out into the desert where it was quiet, in quiet, in silence, with no other people around. And I always say, easy for them. You go away by yourself with no other people. It's pretty easy to be at peace, isn't it? Get out there with 100 people with all different opinions and try to be at peace. That's where you're forced to free your ego. You say it's okay, one presence, one power. Being with each other forces us to look at our issues and to choose to change into that other thought system. As within, so without. As above, so below. And in the book of Revelations, when they talk about the battle of Armageddon, everybody's waiting for that final battle of Armageddon. We know metaphysically the final battle is in our consciousness. When the ego consciousness does battle with the Christ consciousness, that awakening consciousness, no, I don't want to hear it, but this is the truth, no, I don't want to do that. And finally, the final battle, when the ego is freed, wakes up to the Christ consciousness. You still know that I am God. There was a wonderful story in the New Testament of Peter, who was in prison, and he was in chains in prison. And an angel came to him in the middle of the night and freed his chains and allowed him to simply walk out past the guard and through the door. He simply walked out of prison. It's a metaphysical story of our consciousness. We are in the prison of our own minds. We are in the prison of our own way of thinking from our egoic thought of separation. And angels are divine ideas of truth. And archangels are divine inspiration and that realization of our oneness. But that truth is buried in the physical structure. I love it when the Course in Miracles said, I'm not a body, I am free. Let's say that together. I'm not a body, I am free. I am still as God created me. Many years ago, Michael once told me, there's magic when you see yourself walking through your personal drama. There's magic when you let go and see the divine carry you through it. So it's time to embrace that magic and let that truth set us free. But there's two types of magic. One's the kind where you try to control it, and the other is the kind that happens when you let go. I went to, many years ago, I went to a Wicca meeting, a bunch of women who wanted to do Wicca. And that's fine. I thought it would be fun, and they were great women. But I felt through the whole meeting that basically they were trying to control the elements. They were trying to control everything out there. And yes, we can have that power, and we can do that. But ultimately I felt something was missing. There was no inner spirit talked about. It was all about I can control out there. And so I only went to one and never went back again. But the real magic is that awakened ego, when you live life without fear, trusting in your higher self, and trusting the flow of the universe. The real magic is when we're in that higher vibration of love and union, and we experience that power of divine love. So metaphysically, when Jesus lived out all these symbolic stories in his own life, the crucifixion is the crossing out of errors that have become fixed states of mind. We have to cross those states of mind out, the surrender or death of the egoic personality, in order that the Christ mind can be expressed in all its fullness. That's true autonomy. Now, I gave you that list at the beginning that probably made everybody a little uncomfortable. Let's make a new list. What would it look like if your ego were awakened? Well, you'd let go of fear, let go of trying to control, let go of blaming or judging or complaining. We'd honor the differences in each other, not fear them. There'd be no need to compare ourselves to others, no attachment to being right, not into any status. We'd be able to forgive and let go. And love would become the new norm. Love is who we are, not the ego. And right now the world seems full of egos. Somebody once said, big egos are simply shields for a lot of empty space. And that I think there's a divine order that it's happening right now, because it's all in our face. This is what egos look like. What choose today? Are you going to serve your own ego, or are you going to serve your own divinity? And it's blatantly out there for us to look at right now. Not so that we can judge and blame out there, but so that we can look at our own and say, I choose to live through my divine self, not my egoic self. Love is the spirit of the wind that animates all forms. And love is the state we're in when we're in that unity consciousness. So let us take that into prayer and collectively together make that collective group choice to serve the Master of Love, to serve the Master of Union, to serve the Master of the truth that frees us, and to release and let go of all the rest. We allow life's process to humble and free our ego. It no longer matters. But the only focus is on the one presence, one power within us all. And we rejoice in that presence as we say, thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.